It was a rainy Thursday evening when I first noticed something strange. I had just gotten off work, my umbrella useless against the sideways rain. As I hurried down the nearly deserted street toward the parking lot, I noticed a man standing under a flickering street lamp. At first glance, there was nothing remarkable about him. Just another person waiting for a ride, maybe. But as I passed by, he said my name. Not just my first name either. He said my full name, slowly, like he was tasting each syllable. Amelia Grace Warren, he said, smiling thinly. I stopped dead in my tracks. I didn't recognize him. He wasn't a co-worker. He wasn't anyone from my apartment building. I'd never seen him before in my life. Do I know you? I asked, my voice uncertain. He just kept smiling and said, You were born at St. Luke's Hospital, room 302, 3:17 a.m. A stormy night, not so different from this one. My heart lurched. It felt like the rain got heavier, the world around me blurring into a wall of sound. No one else was nearby, no one to call out to. I forced a laugh, tried to make it seem like he must be mistaken. You've got the wrong person, I muttered, quickening my pace toward my car. He didn't follow, at least not that I could tell. But when I got into my car and locked the doors, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely fit the key into the ignition. I kept checking the rearview mirror the whole way home. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the apartment, every hum of the heater, sounded amplified and menacing. I kept telling myself it was a coincidence. Maybe he was some kind of mental patient. Maybe it was just a prank. But deep down, something in my gut told me otherwise. The next morning, I found something taped to my front door. It wasn't a letter or a note. It was a photo of me. It was taken the night before, as I stood in the parking lot fumbling with my keys. I could see the fear on my face, the wet strands of hair clinging to my forehead. And scrawled across the bottom of the photo, in shaky, almost childlike handwriting, were the words, always watching, always knowing. I wanted to call the police. I even picked up the phone and started to dial. But then I stopped. What would I even tell them? Some random guy knew some details about me and left a creepy photo? I had no real evidence he had broken any laws. No proof he had hurt me. Still, I couldn't stay there. I packed a bag and checked into a cheap motel across town. One of those places where you pay cash and they don't ask questions. I didn't even tell my friends where I was going. I thought that if I disappeared for a few days, maybe whoever this was would get bored and move on. But that night, in that dingy motel room with its buzzing neon sign outside the window, I got a text message. An unknown number. No caller ID. The message simply read, You can't hide from someone who knows you better than you know yourself. I dropped the phone on the bed like it had burned me. My vision swam with panic. I hadn't told a single soul where I was. There was no way anyone could have known. Unless he was already following me. Watching, waiting. I didn't sleep that night either. I just sat in the chair by the window, staring out into the darkness, feeling like at any moment he would appear again, whispering my name in the rain. By the second night, I was losing it. Every sound seemed amplified, every shadow twisted into something monstrous. I hadn't eaten properly in over a day, and the motel room, with its yellowed walls and musty smell, was starting to feel like a prison. I knew I couldn't stay locked up forever. I needed air. I needed to feel normal, even if it was just for a moment. I convinced myself to go to the small diner across the street. It was late, almost midnight, and there were only a couple of people inside. An old man hunched over a newspaper at the counter. A young couple whispering in a booth by the window. The waitress barely looked up when I entered. That was good. I didn't want attention. I slid into a booth in the far corner and ordered a coffee, even though my hands were still trembling. For a while, it felt okay. Safe even. The diner smelled like burned bacon and old coffee. Familiar scents that grounded me. I tried to focus on the chipped ceramic mug in front of me, the muted hum of the refrigerator behind the counter. I told myself the nightmare was over, that maybe it had just been a sick joke from someone who'd moved on. But then someone slid into the booth across from me. I didn't hear him approach. I didn't see him coming. One moment I was alone. The next, he was sitting there, smiling at me like we were old friends meeting after years apart. It wasn't the same man from before. This was someone else. Younger, clean-cut, like he could have been someone's friendly neighbor or a high school teacher. But his eyes were wrong. They were cold, flat, almost reptilian. "Amelia," he said, and my stomach twisted. "You're not easy to find, you know." I froze. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body betrayed me. I just sat there, staring at him. He leaned in a little, speaking softly, like he was telling me a secret. "I used to watch you walk to school when you were 7. You had that little pink backpack with the missing zipper. You always stopped at the corner to pick dandelions, remember?" I felt the blood drain from my face. That was over 15 years ago. A detail so small, so meaningless, no one should have remembered it, not even me, until he said it. "You thought you were alone," he whispered. "You never were." I shoved myself out of the booth so fast that I knocked over the coffee mug, the hot liquid splashing across the table. The waitress yelled something, but I didn't hear it. I bolted for the door, heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped animal. Outside, the rain had started again, soft at first but quickly building into a downpour. I ran across the street, slipping on the wet pavement, not daring to look back. I could feel him behind me, even if I couldn't see him, like a shadow stitched to my heels. When I reached the motel room, I fumbled with the key, my soaked hands trembling so badly it took 3 tries to get the door open. I slammed it shut behind me, locked every lock, shoved a chair under the doorknob, and then I cried. Big, ugly, gasping sobs that racked my entire body. I didn't care anymore if someone heard. I didn't care about anything except making it through the night alive. I must have fallen asleep at some point because I woke up to a soft tapping noise. Tap, tap, tap. It took a moment to realize it wasn't coming from the door. It was coming from the window. I turned my head, every muscle in my body locking up. There, outside the window, barely visible through the rain-streaked glass, was a figure. He was just standing there, head tilted slightly to one side, watching me. Waiting. The tapping grew louder, more insistent. I scrambled off the bed and grabbed my phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. My voice cracked when I spoke to the operator, trying to explain through panicked sobs that someone was outside my window. "Stay calm, ma'am," the operator said. "Help is on the way. Can you move to a safe location?" I didn't answer. I was too busy watching as the figure outside pressed something against the glass. It was another photo, another picture of me. But this time, It was taken inside the motel room. It showed me sleeping. The timestamp on the corner read 1 hour ago. That was when I realized something even worse than the figure outside. That someone had already been inside my room while I slept. The sirens finally cut through the night, a shrill wail growing louder. Red and blue lights splashed across the soaked walls of the motel room. I backed away from the window, heart slamming in my chest, still clutching the phone like a lifeline. When the police knocked, I practically tore the door off its hinges, letting them in. They searched the area but found nothing. No man, no footprints by the window, nothing but the rain washing everything clean. I showed them the photo, but again, it was just another piece of paper to them. Something unexplained, but not enough. They filed a report, gave me a number to call if anything else happened, and left me alone in that nightmare room. I knew I couldn't stay. I had to get out. I packed my bag in a frenzy and checked out, ignoring the desk clerk's half-hearted questions about why I was leaving in the middle of the night. I drove for hours without a destination, just needing distance between me and whatever was haunting me. At sunrise, I found myself in a small town a few hours away, its streets quiet and empty. I rented another room at a different motel, this one newer, cleaner. I told myself I could start fresh here, that whoever they were, they wouldn't find me again. For a few days, things were quiet. No strange sightings, no messages, no photographs. I started breathing normally again. I even called my mom, tried to sound normal, laughing off her concern. Maybe, just maybe, it was over. But it wasn't. The nightmare wasn't ending. It was only just beginning. It started with small things. My motel key disappearing from the nightstand, only to show up in the bathroom sink. Lights flickering in the hallway when I passed. Whispered voices just beyond the range of hearing. Then one night, the TV in the room turned on by itself. The screen was nothing but static at first, but then through the haze, I saw images flickering. They were videos of me, of every moment from the past few days. Brushing my hair, eating, sleeping. Even the phone call with my mom. Every second recorded without my knowledge, without my permission. My blood ran cold. I tore the TV cord from the wall, but the images kept playing, the screen buzzing louder, the voices from the static growing clearer. "You can't escape," they whispered. "You were never alone." I ran into the bathroom, splashing water on my face, trying to wake myself up from the nightmare. When I looked up into the mirror, for a split second, I wasn't looking at my own reflection. It was him, the clean-cut man from the diner, smiling, standing right behind me. I whipped around, but the bathroom was empty, just me and the echo of my own ragged breathing. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know what was happening. Why me? How they knew so much. Desperation drove me to a nearby library, a place that felt safe in its stillness. I sat at a dusty computer, hands trembling, and started searching. It didn't take long to find it. An old news article buried deep in forgotten archives. About a girl who had gone missing 20 years ago. Same name as mine, same birthday, same hometown. She'd been taken by a man the police never found. Rumors said she had a twin, a sister who had survived, a sister too young to remember anything, a sister who had been hidden away, her name changed to protect her. Me. I sat there, staring at the screen, my whole life unraveling in front of me. I wasn't who I thought I was, and now, after all these years, he had come back for me. Maybe he had never really left. Maybe he had been there all along, in the corners of my life, watching me grow up, learning everything about me, waiting for the right moment to reclaim what he thought was his. As realization sank in, I felt a presence behind me. Heavy, cold, certain. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I heard him whisper, so close to my ear, it felt like he was inside my head. Found you. And then the world went black.